Tuesday, everyone. It's June 9th, 2026. I'm Rich Tola, and here's what's cooking for today. Number one, the skinification of hair. Yeah, it's the first time I've ever heard that word. I was listening to Bloomberg News this morning. Give a shout out to Bloomberg News. I really like listening to them on the way to the gym. I used to listen to public radio, but public radio seems a little too left for me. I mean, they're anti-Trump. I mean, that makes sense. It's you cut off their funding. But Bloomberg radio seems to be more down the middle, which I prefer. But anyway, I heard about this. So I said, let me talk about that because my father, being the old school barber, was around here and anything to do with hair my whole life. Number two, why people quit their jobs. Also from Bloomberg radio. I heard that story. And finally, I'm going to give a personal plea to an old friend. Sad story, but we'll talk about that. But first, the ABCs, all body workout, blissful sleep, colorful diet. How'd you do today? Me? 2 checks, guys. I'll tell you why. Sleep. Been stressed out. I've been trading. It's been a rough time for the Bitcoin fans out there. So, yeah, I haven't really been sleeping that well. So I give my half a check there. The workout, neck and back pain is back. So I did a light workout, 20 minutes. Later, I'll probably go do some yoga and some stretching, but didn't have a good workout. So I got half a check. And then the food, for sure, you can control what you eat. The colorful diet's the easiest thing to embrace. I've been on the hard-boiled egg kick, guys. So I had hard-boiled eggs, a little bit of sharp cheddar cheese today, banana, kale, because kale's awesome for you. So ate well. So I'm giving myself 2 checks, but again, no worries. You got to move on to bigger and better things. All right, let's talk about that. Bigger and better things. Hair. I'm lucky, I will say. My father was bald, and it's genetics mostly, right? But you can care for your hair. Now, this is a movement. I read about this, and then I went to the hairsociety.org, and I got some more information. But again, give a shout out to my dad. Rest in peace, Richie the barber. I mean, he was way more than a barber. Old school Sicilian gentleman who had a penchant for changing lives. So if you've been out there and changed lives by my dad, good for you. But hey, this is a beauty trend. Again, it's a movement that applies skincare principles, the ingredients and routines of hair, and to the routines of hair and scalp care. So basically, what you're doing for your skin, let's move it up into the scalp. Why? Because it treats the scalp as an extension of the face, focusing on preventative health, is what it says, targeted treatments, and strengthening strands from roots. All right, way to go. You need a personal treatment plan. Guys, you could tell, man, I got a little color in there. I like that now. And so I'm getting treated every 6 weeks. I go, and it's worth it to me. Personal services. You got to take care of yourself, your skin, your hair, your nails. I mean, that's important. And a lot of guys out there, they're neglectful. I mean, because it wasn't, especially guys my age, we didn't grow up with that mentality of kind of pampering yourself, but you should do it. Everybody should do it. You should take care of your nails, especially. And this is cool because the scalp is skin. All right. And this is the hairsociety.org. They say there's pores, oil glands, microbiome, bacteria, inflammation pathways, and aging processes. So it's all about cleansing, balancing, and nourishing your hair. So guys and women, get with the skinification of hair movement. And who knows, maybe I'll get my own hair care products one day. All right, why do people quit their jobs? They said there's 4 words. That's it, 4 words while people quit their jobs. People are not valued. They feel not valued by their managers and their organizations, right? To me, it's my favorite word, respect. Respect, you want to be respected and revered for great work, but here's the thing. I mean, I've quit many jobs in my lifetime, and for me, it was all about passion. I wasn't passionate about it. When you resent going to work in a job that you hate, well, you got to search. To me, it's all about finding that passion, moving into that, but you got to do what you got to do. If you got to pay the rent, hey, whatever, do whatever. It doesn't really matter, but you got to take positivity, in my opinion. Because I've been in situations where it gets negative and you want to get out, but You always want to do your best, regardless of whether you're being revered, valued, or respected. It doesn't really matter. You want to always do your best. And you may not always be valued, but the thing is, you want to leave your mark. All right. You never speak negatively about your managers or never complain. I mean, it doesn't do you any good because words have power and it's going to come back to you. It definitely will. So I say, stay staunch. That's mine. Loyal, steadfast, dedicated, staunch. Got to stay staunch because it's going to serve you well in the next job because there'll be a next job, right? I mean, if you're in the world working, and you got to be that because it's in the universe, right? It's in the universe. If you're a crappy worker, you complain a lot. If you come late, everybody knows it. I mean, I remember working in a restaurant business. You know, the person that's always, you're behind the eight ball. You're leaving your coworkers behind the eight ball most of the time. They rely on you. So don't do that, especially you young guys who get frustrated. You got to stay staunch and be positive because, again, it's going to carry forth. All right, here we go. This is a personal plea. Let me read you this quote. You know, The Wizard of Oz, The Adventures of Oz. L. Frank Boehm wrote that, and he's the author, American author. Here's a quote. A little misery at times makes one appreciate happiness more. All right, let me tell you what happened to me over the weekend. All right, let's go back. 25 years ago, I met this man on Wall Street. Great guy, Italian guy. We hit it off, made some money, made a lot of money together, actually. About 7, 8 years later, I'd moved to LA, and he introduced me to his son who was out there. He was like a surfer dude. He was trying to find his way. I don't know, 25 maybe ish. And got him into yoga. I mean, this guy is fit runner. He could run a mile in 5 minutes. And he got into real estate. So he became, I think, a real estate broker there. Anyway, long story short, 4 years ago, we kind of had a little falling out. He was talking about his dog. He has a dog and he keeps his dog off leash. Now, I've been bitten by a dog 3 times. So I said, hey, why is your dog off leash? I said, isn't it like a law when you're walking? You have to have a dog on leash. Guys like me, we don't really. My mother was petrified. My uncle raised Dobermans, but, a lot of people are fearful of dogs. So dogs on leash, it makes sense to me unless you're in a dog park. But anyway, I got in a fight with another dog and the woman. It was like a nasty situation. He starts cursing about this woman. I said, yo, dude, you're in the wrong. Well, he flipped out on me because he treated his dog as a human being. I said, that's great, but I don't agree with that. Anyway, that's it. Hung up on me. Flash forward 4 years. We're talking 4 years gone by. Never heard a word. Stayed in touch with the old man, but I never brought up the kid. Anyway, calls me up Saturday. In a panic. It was crazy. It was an overseas call. He tells me he's in Italy. He's been living in Italy for 2 years and he's in a tough spot. He lost his phone. The bank's not open till Monday. He can't get cash, can't get a hold of his dad. Can I send him some money? I'm like, first of all, you haven't talked to me in 4 years. And the first thing you do is you're asking me for money. I said, is everything okay? Listen, dude, I'm like concerned. It's the last I talked to him, he was sitting on like $300,000. He was making 6 figures a year as a real estate guy. I couldn't fathom it, but I felt bad. It was like a pathetic situation. And I'm like, that respect to the family and his father. I sent the guy, $500-600. I said, I'll help you out. I said, let me float you some money. I said, but, you got to kind of figure it out. It doesn't sound good, whatever the situation is. You're calling me 4 years later for money. Anyway, and I had a suspicion that there was drugs and alcohol involved, but I didn't say anything. I said, all right, send him the money. He says, listen, I'll call you tomorrow. I'll explain the whole thing to you. We'll catch up. I'm so sorry. He was apologetic. He seemed okay. He didn't seem stoned at the time. But anyway, the next day, calls me up. First thing he says is, hey, can you send me another $100? Boom. Right there. I'm like, got a drug problem, is in bad shape. Now, you read my memoir, Simply Between Millions from Wall Street to Hollywood. There's a chapter there called Intervention. I grew up in the 80s, guys. It snowed a lot in the 80s. Cocaine, that was like a big thing. So all I know is this, drugs and alcohol, to me, you're doing crack, cocaine, alcohol, or pills, real bad. I mean, marijuana to me is like, forget about it. That's like that's like a little baby compared to these other ones. So, guys, if you're in a situation where you have a drug and alcohol problem, you got to get help with that. So this guy calls me the next day and I'm like, no, I can't do it. I go, but listen, man, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about you because, you're going to come home in a body bag. It's not good when you're calling up 10 hours later. He gave the guy $600 and he's calling you up for $100. I'm like, no, not good, not good. So I did call the father and I told him that. I said, I'm concerned. He's like, he fell in some hard. I said, what happened to all that money? Anyway, all I'm saying is this to an old friend. If he's watching, maybe he's not watching. Get out. You got to get out of there. You got to come back. Forget about that. Whatever you're doing, it's not working. So you got to grab yourselves by the bootstraps. Guys, if you're struggling, you got to seek help without a doubt, because I couldn't help him. And I said, no, because I said immediately, I'm fueling a drug problem. Don't want to be doing that. I thought I was helping the kid. Who calls you the next day? Unbelievable. And he hung up on me. He was mad that I wouldn't give him the money. So guess what? That's the way it goes. I'm happy to help you out to save your life, but you got to do it for yourself. Stay staunch. Got to be loyal to yourself. You got to respect yourself, guys. Got to do it. Got to do it. All right. Some positives. I want to give a happy birthday shout out. To me, she is one of the greatest actors of all time. 13 years old. She was in the movie Leon the Professional. Natalie Portman. Hey, Natalie, happy birthday. You are a pure gem. She was in Garden State with Zach Braff. She was in Black Swan, Mila Kunis, Vincent Cassell. But I'll tell you, Leon with Jean Reno, Gary Oldman, that to me is one of the best movies ever made. So go check that out. But a happy birthday to Natalie. She's 45 today. And here's another good shout out to one of the greatest racehorses of all time that was in my life when I was 10 years old, Secretariat. Secretariat won the Triple Crown. What is it? 53 years ago today, 1973 at the Belmont Stakes. It won by 25 lengths. You guys got to go watch that on YouTube. Moving like a tremendous machine. I mean, this racehorse captured a nation in 1973. Remember, there was no cell phone. You had to communicate with people. You had to read the paper. But I'll tell you, it swept the nation. And the horse that it beat, Sham, I don't think it ever ran again. I got into horse. Give a shout out to Jimmy V. Hey, America's food critic, if you want to look him up. He's a horse guy with Bobby Flay. Secretariat is one of the best of all. We owned a horse together called Carson City. It was a kit. It was a Carson City Colt, but racehorsing, my father always liked that. He took me to the track when I was 5 years old. So kudos to Secretariat way back when in 1973 to blow it out on a Triple Crown win. All right, guys, let's wrap it up with the 3 Tola takeaways because, again, they're crucial. Number 1, always respect the ABCs. You got to do it best you can. Hey, if you're with 2 checks, no worries. There's always tomorrow. Number 2, pick up the phone. Go see somebody. Spread your goodwill today. Share your love with someone who could use it today. And number 3, always be willing to accept another person's opinion. Just because it's not yours doesn't mean it's wrong. All right, guys, have an awesome day. And as always, get your workout.